Hello and welcome to irishracing.com for another edition of our Formscan show. A big weekend of Grade 1 action ahead again. Big race in Naas, the Lawlors of Naas Novice Hurdle. Exciting card lined up there. And I'm delighted to be joined by Paddy Flood to have a quick preview of that. And we're also going to talk about the Gold Cup division in a bit of an Antepost kind of video, I suppose. But Paddy, first off, I suppose, thanks very much for coming on. Did you have a nice Christmas?
Good Christmas, Emma. Thanks very much. I hope you had a good one yourself.
Very good. Look, you've been on with us a few times, but I suppose just for people who don't know you too well, obviously they know you from your jockey days, but now you're based in Race at the moment. It's a place that's kind of under a lot of changes, I suppose, in the last few months. I suppose your role is changing there as well. I suppose just give us a kind of a quick overview as to what your kind of day-to-day role is now and how the course has changed with the different things that came in there in the last few months.
Yeah, look, it's been a bit of a challenging time. We did lose 21 staff members, mainly cleaning and kitchen and teaching staff. Most of the staff in the barn have been kept, as we've over 30 horses. So we did run a pilot scheme with 7 young aspiring jockeys for 12 weeks, and it went down really, really well. The only problem I suppose we had is we've no accommodation on site anymore, so the accommodation just isn't up to scratch. I've nothing confirmed or anything, but the vibes are good about the accommodation, and we've been hearing a lot of positive news about what could be invested in the place. As I said, nothing's confirmed yet, but that little pilot run we did ran really well. So if we could maybe break away from the norm that was having 35 students or 30 students all together at one time with different level of abilities, that we could tailor courses for specifics. That going forward would probably suit us as instructors better as well. But yeah, as I said, that pilot worked really well. This year, it looks like we could have another course going. We've 22 kids here next Monday, actually, for trials. So if we can pick 10 to 15 of that we deem acceptable, that we can train and send out to yards, we'd be very, very happy. But look, if we can't get them, we'll go to the drawing board again, But as I said, it's a big change, but hopefully it's a change for the better.
I was kind of following a few of the bits on social media as well from the pilot scheme, I suppose, and the kind of was it the group of 7? They got kind of great opportunities to go to different places, like you and Willie Mullins' yard one day. I saw that, and I suppose that kind of adds to it as well when you've got that kind of higher level of a rider. You can do a bit more with them. I think you went down to schooling races and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, we went to Tipperary, schooling bumpers. So we basically, we drilled them to be jockeys, basically. So they would have had stalls training down to a Tipperary racecourse for racecourse gallop. William Mullins's schoolings, good talks from jockeys, talks from jockeys' agents, nutrition and well-being and mental health and all that. So I know one of them already is in the process of getting his license. If he hasn't got it already, Danny Power, he's a really good kid, one to keep an eye on. But the 7 of them seem to really enjoy it and thrive. So for us, look, it'll be very hard to get 7 or 10 like that all the time. We do need staff in the industry. Them 7 can hopefully want to ride in the track, but it's not all about riding on the track either. It's about producing high standard staff. So, but like you said, them better ones, with the help of Equip, we were able to fund it and really just stretch them.
Yeah, and I suppose just on the topic of promising young jockeys, a quick look back to Christmas, I suppose. We were kind of talking off air, and you were saying you were very impressed by Marie Nationale in particular over the Christmas period, and in particular, I suppose, Michael O'Sullivan's ride on the horse. So you just wanted to discuss that performance, I suppose.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on it with you when we were speaking, and the horse was very, very good. But for a young man, Michael O'Sullivan, he's not a professional that long. He's been a claimer riding this horse. And for people watching it with the naked eye, they would have said that horse just bolted in. It was easy. He was the best horse in the race, and it was smooth sailing. But for me, it was one of the best rides of Leopardstown, to be honest. And I kind of will talk you through why, but I honestly think he's made this horse chasing career so much easier on the horse now. So riding a horse of that caliber and that young of a man, it's very easy to get into the mind frame of I'm on the best horse here. All I have to do is get around and I'll win. Michael didn't do that. Michael jumped off in front, and it's the freshest I've seen this horse now. He cocked his head sideways with him, and he was running at the first with him. And it's, as I said, riding a really good horse like that, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, just don't do anything wrong and we're fine. Michael didn't do that. Michael went down to the first, and that horse was half running with him, and he dared him. He went down, he squeezed him, and he made up his mind for the horse because he was fresh and he was in his hands. So first of all, the horse lands, and he lands again, and he starts taking Michael on again down to the second. And it'd be very easy to just go, come back to me. I don't need you yet. But he dared him again. He seen a stride. He committed him fully. There was no half commitment there. By the time he got to the third, that horse had literally forgot about pulling and forgot about being fresh, and his main focus was on fencing. And that's the what we call getting a horse into a rhythm. That horse's mind was made up from the first two. So he's going to the first fence thinking, I'm fresh. I'm thinking about my jockey. I want to pull him. I want to pull him. I want to run with him. And by the time he gets to the third, all he's doing is his 2 ears are pricked, his head is down, and he is fully focused on the job. And that comes from Michael's ride down over the first 2 or 3 fences. And then it looks really smooth down the back, because it is really smooth as a jockey then, because all you're doing is that horse is 15 strides out looking at that fence, measuring it. Whether he needs to quicken down to it, he quickens down to it. He spent no time in the air. He got no fright. He went down to the second last, gave him a squeeze again. He came for him, and he was running at the last, and he went down, he popped it, and he was slick. And the horse's confidence from here on out, I would say, is sky high. He can ride that horse any way he likes the next day. There's going to be no complications, and that's why I think he's even money for an Arkle. He's really, really good horse. But I thought the ride was just, that would, to the untrained eye, look really simple, but I thought it was a very, very assured piece of riding.
Yeah, and you talk about the horse's confidence there. Obviously, Michael gave him that, but like, I suppose you know from your own experience as like coming up as a young rider, getting these good rides on these big horses, like there must be some amount of pressure on a man. Like you said, he's only a professional, I think, less than 2 years. I know he's a lot of point-to-point experience, but I suppose even just walking out of the parade rink, getting up on the horse, like what is going through his head? I suppose it's like it's kind of hard for someone who hasn't ridden to understand, I suppose, and just getting out there and then putting in the performance, like you said.
He's got nerves of steel, really, because the horse was probably due to run on a lesser week, if so to say, but the ground was too soft for him and decided to come to Leopardstown. So I don't think Michael had ridden a winner that week either. So you're going out and probably the best horse Barry O'Connell's ever had, and he could be the best horse we've seen in Ireland 2 miler for a long, long time. So as I said to you, it'd be very easy for him to go down to the first and make that horse pop and just get him over his fences and just win, and not give him that experience and teach him properly. But he did, he's got ice in his veins, the young man, and he proved it last year in Cheltenham. And it was just for me, it was a beautiful ride. I thought it was one of the best rides of the week.
Yeah, it was a massive performance, and it's kind of easy to see now why he's such a short price for the Arkle. But I suppose, look, just on the topic of 2 mile chases, we'll have a quick look at some of the racing on Sunday in Naas. There's quite a good novice chase there, their 2 mile division, and there's a horse in there who has quite a big reputation from the Willie Mullins yard, Mr. Policeman. He's probably a horse who didn't maybe deliver up to maybe the hype that was built around him around the stable tours and all this early season, but he won on debut, beating Feudal Brazil in Fairy House. But it's probably not the worst race in the world either. Quixilios is opposing him there. He may be disappointed last time in a graded affair, but Mr. Policeman, is he one that kind of impressed you on debut? I know a lot of people were maybe slightly disappointed by that performance, even though
Yeah,
he
it
did
didn't
win.
impress me. It didn't impress me at all now, to be honest. He needs to jump a hell of a lot better. Look, I suppose at the time, Willie's horses weren't really firing. It was probably only the second or third day in Leopardstown we really seen Willie's really take off. So you'll have to forgive him that. Um, as the other horses, and he's probably the best horse in the race, which is going to help him. But for me, going to Cheltenham, having a bet on him, he really would want to sharpen up jumping wise, and he'd want to go and win impressive on Sunday.
Yeah, and just kind of on one more of Willie's 2 mile chase, I suppose Facile Vega. Quick recap: what did you think of that performance? He's a horse who can show in that kind of one every now and again. Like you couldn't be too confident of him reopposing Nationale now, I suppose.
No, and I probably would have rather Marine Nationale before it anyway, but I did think he'd win in Leopardstown. The only thing I will give him on his side, there is a bad run in him. The horse that won it jumped right all the way, and I don't know if Patrick had, I'd say his stall was set out to go out and go wide, and probably wasn't expecting the horse in front of him to keep going right. A lot of the winners in Leopardstown came wide, probably the better part of the ground all week, and I'd say it was in his head to do it. But it did interfere with the horse, and he's a funny animal. You know, he can be very keen some days, and then like that day he can throw in a stinker. We all know the ability he has. You know, he's shown it over hurdles, he's shown it in bumpers. For me, he didn't jump great in Navan. Doesn't look the most natural 2 mile chaser, whereas Marie Nationale was every time Michael gave him a squeeze, he came. Whereas, Facile was the opposite for Patrick. And the difference in having confidence in a horse and not is was them too. Patrick couldn't go down to a fence and lie in his neck because he was a little bit worried about the horse in front jumping right. But if Facile Vega was jumping well enough, he'd have been able to take it off him and go on and win his race. So he was very disappointed. But with the ability he has, I wouldn't write him off.
Yeah, he's obviously very talented. He seems to be the apple of Woody's eye as well. So, like you said, be kind of foolish to write him off this early. But we'll move on anyway to the Lawlors and Naas, the big race on Sunday. Grade 1 affair, very high class 8 declared. Willie has 5 horses who probably are very worthy graded winners in their own right. But Gordon actually the favourite Firefox, very impressive, beating Ballyburn in Fairyhouse last time. Ballyburn obviously franked that form over Christmas as well. Who was kind of standing out to you here looking at it?
Well, he was, to be honest, and the step up and trip, I would say, looks more than likely going to suit him. Um, there was no excuse for Ballyburn that day. They went steady enough. He missed the second last a little bit, but Firefox went down to the last two. When Jack wanted him, he winged, and he really let go and raced and won nicely. And obviously, the form is superb. Um, Ballyburn came out and destroyed his rivals in Leopardstown, but yeah, it's a really really good run into this race, and I think I won it years ago as it was a grade two, to be honest. But ever since they've stepped it up a grade, they get great fields in it. Like there's Annie Powers, son in it there. We don't know what he could be. Like he didn't win his bumper impressive. He was very good in Galway in a maiden. Il Atlantique was beaten by Firefox in a bumper, but bolted in his maiden hurl. And on Tobar of Henry de Bromhead's form is like he was only third the last day, but the form is really good in that race, and his maiden form has stood up as well. So I think it's a proper grade one, proper, and it looks an exciting race, and whatever wins it it'll be bang there at Cheltenham, I think.
Yeah, just kind of echoing what you said. Like, there's so many kind of unexposed ones in there, I suppose. Like Firefox, probably horse we saw plenty of in bumpers, but maiden hurl debut couldn't have been much better. Like the likes of Atlantic, Mystical Power, like you said, we don't know much about them, but it'll be kind of revealing, I suppose. Chapeau de Slay was a big talking horse last year as well, I suppose. Maybe a small bit of doubts about his constitution, though he wasn't the most reliable in
Yeah.
bumpers last year. And on Tubber, like you were saying, that form last time in Fairyhouse is rock solid. So it's a very interesting affair. Probably be good pointers towards the Ballymore, maybe even the 3 mile novice hurdle race as well at Cheltenham. But you're sticking with Firefox, so he'd be your selection here.
I'd stick with Firefox, and even to give Croke Barton a mention, he looks a little touch maybe as a chaser, but with every run he looks like he knows what he's doing a little bit more, and he's got a lot of ability. So I'd say we could see a really top contender for Ballymore in this. Yeah.
Yeah, Crow Park, I'd echo that. Probably maybe one for 3 miles down the line, but he's looked very good winning his 2 starts this year so far. But yeah, it'll be a good one, and I'd probably stick with Firefox as well. Gordon seems to be mad about him, and so does Jack, which is always a good pointer as well. But we were kind of saying that maybe a small bit of a change to the format of the show. We're going to start talking about one division from Cheltenham each week. We're going to start off with the Gold Cup division, I suppose. With Paddy, we had the entries come out earlier this week, and plenty of pointers over the Christmas period as well. Look, I suppose to start off, we have to talk about Galopin Des Champs. I think that performance in the Savills maybe dispelled any doubts that anyone might have had about him. Look, I think probably the first question I have is, do you think he was a different horse than what we've seen, maybe being beaten by Fast or Slow last 2 times, or maybe did the rest underperform slightly?
I'll just go back to what I said about Michael O'Sullivan's ride. Um, I think they were putting too much emphasis on him settling the first day, and he completely switched off, never got into a rhythm. He lost a lot of ground jumping, and still finished right on their tails. So for me, the rumor of the Gold Cup has left the mark on him. I didn't buy into it. Now you see Paul booked him out in Leopardstown, good and smart. Horse was nice and keen, and he went down and he winged the first couple for him, got into his rhythm, and like halfway down, I know they went muddling enough pace, but halfway down the back they turned it on, and I mean from 100 yards from the last fence to the line, he was just explosive, and I think he's kept his form, and everything around him has kind of shown their true colours, But I think the Savills Chase was extraordinary race, and I think Paul Townend would have enjoyed that.
Yeah, he was electric, and like you were saying, maybe written a small bit more forwardly, probably set him alight. But yeah, he looks like, I was there on Thursday, and it was probably one of the best races I've ever seen live. Just absolutely electric. But just, I suppose, on Jerry Calam, some people may be suggesting a slight underperformance from him. Do you think he can get any closer? I can't see him turning over the form myself, but maybe he did underperform slightly on the day.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Gallopin, look, he might have peaked in Leopardstown, but I don't buy into Jerry didn't perform. For me, Gallopin des Champs can go down to a fence. He's not a big horse, Gallopin des Champs, even though he's long and scopy. He's not massive. But same with Algo and Photo, they can go down to a fence and nearly take it from the roots and not break a stride. Whereas I think Jerry Clum is he's a beautiful looking jumper, but he's nearly too clean of a jumper. That sort of way when the hustle and bustle in Cheltenham in a Gold Cup, if he starts jumping up in the air a little bit when he gets tight, he loses ground. And I mean, he was beat there last year. Some will say it was the jockey's error, but for me, the horse just jumped too big, to be honest, and he was too slow through the air. If he was quicker through the air, he would have won. So if Gavin Shams turns up in the Gold Cup, he beats Jerry. He could be, I don't know, down the line. He would he be a national horse or something like that? A nice big clean jumper. I just always thought it about him. He's a beautiful looking leopard, but maybe spends a little bit too long in the air for me.
Yeah, he can be caught a little bit flat-footed off the back of a fence as well, can't he? But that's kind of the Savills kind of wrapped up, I suppose. Like, it's Galloping, just brilliant. But quick look at the King George as well. Uwick, I think, probably my favourite performance, just kind of from a celebration point of view anyway, in the King George. He was just brilliant. What kind of race do you think he might win in the Gold Cup? About 14-1 now. Surely he has some kind of an each-way chance.
Yes and no. It's still, look, it's hard to say King George winner, and you're kind of going, oh, won't he be placed in the Gold Cup? Many other years we'd be saying they'd be favourites. I mean, it was a strange race, such a strange race. With Shishkin coming down, with him jumping off to start with. We thought, oh, here we go, we'll have a race. And then for me, geez, they got at it plenty early now, And I think Gavin said it himself that if it wasn't the race it was and the prize money wasn't what it was, he could have pulled them up, Great spectacle to watch down over the last two. But I'd still be wary of him around Cheltenham, to be honest. I don't know. I think Shishkin still wins if he stands up. I still think Hewitt probably finishes second, and Braveman's game is third, and Allaho probably finishes fourth. But geez, I'd love to see him, and it just my gut just tells me I don't know. He's like, if you've seen him in the flesh, I've seen him in the flesh a couple of times, and he just doesn't stand out at all. So what he's done is just amazing for a little horse that he is, and it was a great day. Now I hope I'm completely wrong, but I couldn't have him in the first three in a Gold Cup.
Yeah, that's probably why he cost, was it 850 quid or something? He doesn't stand out to anyone, I'd say, except for Shark. But yeah, look, I definitely can't see him beating Gallopin or getting near him. But look, I'd love to see him run into a place anyway, if nothing else. But kind of a quick note on Brave Man's Game, I suppose, like you were mentioning about the Gold Cup leaving a mark on some horses. People are maybe saying that about him as well. Gold Cup, would you be confident that he can maybe run into second place again, so like behind Galopin Deschamps, or is he maybe a horse is going backwards? Like maybe Allaho might be going the same trajectory.
I don't think he's necessarily going backwards. I think last year the only race he got found out in was the Gold Cup. And if we think back, Gallopin arrived beside him on the bridle, and they jumped the last together, and he kicked away from him. But all his other races, he left less opposition on the way to Cheltenham. He jumped much better last year. I'll give him that much, and he travelled a hell of a lot better. Um, I don't look. He hasn't been up to that sort of form, but I can still see him turning up in a Gold Cup and running a big race. Now I think mentioned Allaho. I'd forgive Allaho. If you go back all through his form, his second up run is never the best run, even when he's in full training. So he's missed a long time, and that bounce factor that we used to speak about, I don't know, do we speak about it anymore? But a second up in a grueling race like that, I'd forgive him. He wasn't brilliant in Clonmel either, by any stretch of the imagination, but he seems to be a horse that come spring, that's when it really suits him. So he's a horse I will be kind of having a few quid on in Cheltenham wherever he goes, because he's got a massive engine. Getting back to Brave Man's Game, if he turns up the best horse he can ever be, he still doesn't beat Gallopin for me.
Yeah, and I suppose like just quick note on the rest of the well, I suppose maybe we'll talk about Jungle Boogie first. He ran in the Savills Chase in Tremor. I thought he was very impressive. Look, he's 40s one for the Gold Cup, probably deserves to be a big price. But is he a horse you could maybe see sneaking into the division? Like he's not a young horse, is he? He's a 10-year-old, but he's only had a couple of runs. Obviously has a lot of ability. Maybe not good enough for a Gold Cup, but do you think he's a proper Grade One kind of 3 mile chaser down the line?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. And look, if the heavens open, he'll come into it definitely. He's a big price if the ground comes up very soft or anything like that. Being a 10-year-old, he's going to be well able for the hustle and bustle of it. He hasn't got a million runs, but he was very good the other day. He beat a nice horse. He looked beat. He got a very good ride off Dara, and went on and won it well. So if you were kind of tossing up between himself and Hewitt, I'd nearly chance me a few quid each way on him.
Yeah, big price, and I thought it was great training as well, just to get him there. He won one on the hilly way, but yeah, very unexposed for a 10-year-old. I suppose just quick note on the rest. Look, we haven't really talked about fast or slow. He's around 4-1 after beating Galopin Deschamps twice. A few others in their Gentleman's Game, maybe still a little bit underrated. Is there anything else kind of standing out to you with a bigger price as maybe one with a squeak in a Gold Cup?
Not particularly. Look, I'd like to touch on fast and slow. Look, he's been exceptionally well trained. Um, I did hear a piece of Martin Brazel. I don't know, was it David Keenan or one of the lads done it, mic'd them up on the Curra one morning, and hearing JJ Slevin and Martin talking, and Martin said, "Do you still think he's a 2 mile chaser?" So he's obviously got that really raw natural ability that he can stay in as well. Listen, he's they've met twice. He's beat him twice. He's an exceptionally good horse. I think he's the one Gallopin has to beat, as he will be trained specifically for this race. Martin's a master at it. Great owners, good jockey, and I mean, because he can travel so smooth early, he can put himself anywhere in the Gold Cup, and then he relaxes. So after a mile, he could be right on the speed and get him back, take a breather. Whereas if Gallopin has to be jumped out on speed, he could overdo it a little bit. But it'll be great. It's great to see. I can remember going there with watching Kicking King and Denmans, and Ireland had never got a look in. Whereas now we're top of the market, and I'd love for Martin Brazel and Sean Mulrine to really win a Gold Cup. So he's Gallopin's main threat.
Yeah, so I suppose to talk about the Irish ones, I actually heard a great one-liner there about the English chances. I suppose Shishkin and Brave Man's Game were the best ones. One won't start and the other won't finish. So yeah, the Irish are definitely dominating at the moment. Would you be having a bet at this stage? I suppose Antepost, a few firms going on a no bet. quite short though on Gallopin, and Fast or Slow maybe 4-1, a small bit of value,
Yeah, I
considering
think
he has beaten Gallopin.
he's a value. Yeah, he definitely is a value, and like we haven't seen him over Christmas. You can be guaranteed he'll be fit and primed for the day. So maybe if Gallopin has peaked at Christmas, Fast or Slow could pick up the pieces. And then 4-1, look, he's an absolutely nothing wrong over a fence, this guy, and he's a really smart little jumper, and he's a beautiful animal. So look, Gallopin's price is what it is. After the Savills, it was amazing. We still haven't seen the best of this Fast or Slow yet, but 4-1, yeah, look, it's the right price for him.
Yeah, it's an exciting division that's really heating up, and I'm hoping we'll see that French horse back for the Gold Cup next year, maybe taking on Gallopin Des Champs, going for his third Gold Cup. But look, a great kind of roundup of the weekend's action and the Gold Cup scene. Thanks very much, Paddy, for all your insight. It was brilliant to hear from you. And look, if you enjoyed the show, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you're having a bet, make sure to gamble responsibly. We'll be back Monday with our normal Jump to It show.